What's up, gente? What's up, Raza? So ICE is building huge prisons to hold people. Let's talk about it. Trump basically has given the okay, and the Republicans, as well as Democrats, let's get that straight, both parties have long approved ICE, and they've approved holding centers for not just what's happening today, but even going back to when Obama was in office. So let's put that out there. Both parties are guilty of this, but currently under the administration right now, under Donald Trump, we're watching new facilities being built, and I remember back during Trump's first, term, I think it was in 2018, 2019. I went to El Paso, and in El Paso, we saw a huge facility that had been built. Those things went up. They're up to this day. And they hold up to 1,000 people or more now, actually more. And so we're watching these mega prisons being built to house people, including housing people who ICE arrests and people who ICE detains. And fortunately, a lot of the facilities are actually housed in the deep south, including and especially in Texas. And there's a reason for this. We saw people being arrested in Los Angeles, Illinois, Minnesota, and anywhere that was up north in the West Coast or in the East Coast. Those people would be brought down to the South, Louisiana, for example. And there's a reason for that. And that's because the current and the big federal court in the South, and this is one of the federal courts underneath the Supreme Court, they are making all the decisions about who comes, who goes, who can fight their case. And when people fight their case, it's almost a losing battle because immigration law is so difficult to fight. So these Fifth Circuit judges, that's what they're called. There's circuits, I believe there's about 12, 13 circuits around the country. These Fifth Circuit judges, they're all conservative, they're all right wing. So Donald Trump and ICE know exactly what they're doing. Let's talk about this because again, this didn't start with Donald Trump. So they're all responsible for this. But let's understand that it's Trump that's ramping this up, and he's exploiting these circuits and these judges, and exploiting these federal courts that are going to make decisions about who comes and who goes, what kind of stuff exists. For example, alligator Alcatraz. That's one thing where people sued, and people forgot. They stopped talking about alligator Alcatraz in Florida, where you have this sick prison built, and it's filthy. It has horrible living conditions, and yes, it's celebrated by alligators. That's why it gets that ugly name, Alcatraz, because it's supposed to be the place where you can't escape, right? The governor of Florida and the president of the United States collaborated to get this done. People sued, and we haven't heard much of it because people thought, okay, we won. No, we did not win. That case is still going on. People are still being housed. The court halted certain things and said you can't do certain things, but never stop them from operating. And let's look now at Texas, where they're holding people, but specifically it's children. It is children that they're holding in these prisons. And so we got to keep in mind that as long as these prisons are there, and as long as these judges are allowed to make these kind of decisions, you're going to have Trump. You're going to have the next politician that wants to be president, senator. You're going to have them talking that tough, I'm tough on crime stuff. But it's the children that are suffering. So what do we do, right? What do we do? There's only so many ways to fight this fight, but there's a lot of ways nonetheless, right? And sure, we can fight in the courts. That's going to be slow. But keep in mind, for people who may not understand, when a judge is appointed by a president, a federal judge, not a state judge, a federal judge, they're there for life. And what does that mean? That means, you could be there 30, 40, 50 years, and they could be passing laws and taking positions that impact our life at the next half a century. And those judges are there until they die. Like I said, they're there until they die, just like the Supreme Court. So elections have consequences. And this is where I want to encourage our people to, if you can vote, organize and vote against these things. Because yes, elections have consequences. And we may not get the candidate we want. We don't have that perfect candidate. Let's be real about that. Okay. So that is one way to fight. Another way to fight is to keep people informed about what's happening, right? Keep people aware of what's happening. That's like why I mentioned alligator Alcatraz, because that's never gone away. It's still there. Let's also make sure that we fight at the state and local level. Go to your school board meetings, go to your county board of supervisors, for example. Those are the people who make the decisions on hospitals and prisons, and they're elected at the wider, at large level, where people, you may have 1 to 10, supervisors that represent a city or a county. So go to those meetings and make sure that they hear you. But I want to bring up a way of fighting that we don't normally talk about, and we don't normally, look at as something, as a way to fight back, and it's really not new. That's boycotting, right? Boycotting. And if we can boycott and not buy something, for example, Rosa Parks and others, including Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, they boycotted a lot of the products and businesses as who supported racism, discrimination, no bathroom breaks, and no pay, or at least no rights for farm workers. These are the type of actions that brought down those structures at a large level. So that's important, especially if you can't vote. uh, and so that's one way to go. But then this takes me to the final approach that we may be having to take soon. And that's a general strike, a huge strike. And these are nationwide, regional strikes, strikes that will bring a company to a halt. And financially, can't go anywhere. If people don't show up to work, for example, we're watching our students walk out of schools. The reason why that's important is because while those students are walking out, if they're not in the classroom or if they're not in those seats, it's called average daily attendance. Those school districts don't get paid. They don't get that money, right? So, man, they're showing us what they can do when they create a general strike. Now, imagine millions of kids across America never showing up to school because of ICE and to protest ICE raids. That would hit the state big time, nationally, statewide, locally. That's power. Well, we as adults can do something similar, and we recently saw it happen within Minnesota. Several of these type of workers who said, "All right, if this is what's going to happen in our state, we're not showing up to work," and they didn't. They shut the city down. So we are going to have to start calling for a general strike, because the other alternative is to demand that the politicians not pass legislation until these things get settled. Right now we're supposedly in another government shutdown over ICE, but even that's not going to do a lot, because they're asking for band-aid solutions. In my opinion, abolish ICE, get rid of ICE. It's funny to watch some of these politicians now decide, well, maybe we should reform ICE, right? Not get rid of ICE totally, but reform it. That means, touch it up, make it a little prettier, no masks, things like that. Like they say the saying, you can put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. This is the perfect example where they want to just reform ICE. I'll stand on the side of getting rid of ICE. I'll stand on the side of a general strike if that's what is necessary. And I would stand on the side of human rights and exposing, especially young people out there, expose the hypocrisy, expose what's going on, even if it's your own leaders, your own religious leaders who are being hypocritical. Expose them for what they're doing and what they're supporting. And talk to your parents if you have adults in your lives, and question them, why do you support ICE if they do? Young people, they're living, and we all are for that matter, in a historical time when things are happening right in front of us, but they're happening so fast. And that's the tactic that Trump wants to use, is to attack stuff. It's called control chaos, right? They throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. This kind of controlled chaos is meant to overwhelm us to where we just don't want to pay attention. It hurts too much to have to focus. It's too difficult to pay attention to what's happening with all this craziness being thrown at us at one time. And it overwhelms us to the point where we just want to curl up and walk away, just curl up and go, do something else, tune out. Basically, they want us to tune out and not watch, what they're doing to us at a worldwide level, right? So pay attention, people, wake up to what's happening. And if again, if young people are out there, definitely, stay strong, stay united, And if you have to act against the adults to show them and embarrass them, if they don't want to tune in, or if they know what's happening and they're contributing to it, then more power to you. But let's do that. Let's not allow this approach where you get tossed all this news, all these news stories, all this crazy chaos about ICE, about Trump, about the Epstein file, all this stuff that's out there. It's just being tossed at us at one time. It's meant to overwhelm us. Stay focused, stay organized, stay united, and don't fall victim to the name calling, the online pettiness that sometimes you watch adults engage in, and they know what they're doing. When I say they, I'm talking about those in charge, not just the political leaders, but also the financial leaders of this world, those who have all the money, like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and all these billionaires around the world. They know what they're doing. Don't get caught up with that, because they're trying to overwhelm us, they're trying to divide us, and they're trying to get us to just shut down and not be involved. Right? They don't want us to stay involved. So again, stay strong, young people out there. More power to you. I always say all power to the people, and I mean it.